Okay, another dev stream. Let's get started. We're still trying to get this keyboard made. I could probably find an example very quickly of what this looks like. If we go to the QMK Discord, you can see right here, and by the way, this was probably just posted today, you can see a keyboard that's created with these switches. I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but there's all these little switches. That's exactly what this is. That black thing is this. Oh, I can open in browser. Let's do that. So we are currently laying all of these out so that we can, so we're creating the footprint, then we're going to lay these out, and then it's going to auto route these lines. At least that's the goal. So hopefully we can do that today. I'd be super happy if we got a grid of these guys rendering. So let's jump right in. Minimize Discord. We're gonna start in the CLI repo. And let me make sure we're all merged up here. Okay, we're still working on the macro keypad part 1. So it looks like there's a type check failure, so I can't merge this guy in. Also, there's like a typo here that's really annoying. It says format check instead of type check. So I'm just gonna quickly fix that, type check, so that we don't see that in the future. And then, yeah, we're seeing a bad type inside of version.ts right there. React Fiber isn't packaged anymore, so we can just remove that. We can actually replace it if we wanted with core, which would be much better because core is a version we definitely care about. Okay, let's see if we fixed our type issues. I'm just gonna move this back. Okay, type issues are fixed. We have some merge conflicts. These happen a lot on this repo because the dependencies on this repo auto update. So fix this, we do git fetch, git merge, origins/main. We replicate that conflict, then we go into our package.json. I'll resolve this one in the merge editor for fun, so we can see which ones we want. They're basically the same, except there's no React Fiber there. 52, I'm just checking version numbers. Props, we want a later version, 62. Whoops. Something is up with my cursor there. 6235, yeah. I guess I already resolved it. I don't know. I don't really know what was going on there. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't look like a real version number. 052 core. I don't know. I don't really trust this resolution. So what we're going to do is do a bun update latest tscircuit/props tscircuit/core. Okay. And then that should be resolved now. That was weird. The merge tool, I don't think it's done that for me before where it like didn't know what to do. Okay, so hopefully all these checks pass now and we can merge this in and kind of start on a fresh note. But what we did last time, it looks like we fixed some small things in the build system, but we are mainly working on this switch shaft system. The switch shaft is a system for, I'm realizing very recently that GitHub doesn't do the syntax highlighting properly. When you have custom React components like chip. So it actually cares about what is inside of here, apparently for the TSX highlighter, which is kind of disappointing. And hopefully doesn't have too much of an impact when we're reading code because it does everything in the tags correctly, but it clearly does this part very wrong. So that's going to be a little bit of a pain when reviewing PRs unless they somehow fix that. I think there's probably some ways we can fix it. For example, by like exporting the React components so you can kind of import them or something like that. But yeah, that's a little bit annoying. Anyway, we were working on this 9-key keyboard, and we're going to continue working on that. So we're going to merge in the part 1 just so that we have a clean PR today, but we're going to be working on that 9-key macro keypad. So basically a keyboard with 9 keys. Okay, we're all merged up. I'm going to pull main, create a new branch, call it key 2 or part 2. Let's open up our macro keypad file. We can see we have a switch shaft here already defined, and then we're just going to run bun run dev. I think last time I was working on a bug where, or I was looking at a bug where it was not moving. So I'm going to see if I can reproduce that. Basically, if you give it an XY position, it should move to that location, but it doesn't seem to be doing that. And it might be because it's using the constraint layout system. So yeah, it's centered around 0, right? This is 0, 0. So it's not moving to where we want it to be. And that's a problem because how else can I add multiple switches, right? So I don't even know if this works when I add. Yeah, okay. So there's multiple problems. These other switches don't get the constraints applied. So if we go inside the key switch, there's all these pads, and then there's all these constraints between the pads. So something is clearly going wrong when you have 2 of these things defined inside 2 different chips. So what we're going to do is reproduce this in a testing core, and then we will fix it, and then we'll come back and we'll try to get these guys routing. It's going to be really cool when these guys route. So hopefully this does not take too long. Okay, core. Let's get started. I'm just gonna, I think I have some changes here. So I'm gonna revert these changes. I was asking AI to fix some bugs and it was unsuccessful, maybe due to me prompting it poorly. And yeah, let's see. It's kind of like an offset issue. I should maybe just quickly write an issue for this just so that I can keep it in mind. Or constraints don't work inside of multiple HOCs, higher order components or higher order components, which is just, a class like, like a React component that contains the lower level lowercase components. We can take a screenshot of this, paste it in here. Okay. And now we have our issue. I'll assign myself this. Okay. So now we can keep our train of thought, hopefully. There's already an example. It's called example 2 that has this switch shaft defined in it. And there's also a rendering for this. So example 2, snap SVG. If we look at the preview, we get the preview out. So we could use this test to test this. But I actually think if this issue is at all hard, we probably won't want to do it that way. So I'm going to start with this test. There's kind of 2 issues too. So that's also good to keep in mind. There's 2 issues when using constraints, chip.pcbx and chip.pcby aren't applied. Okay, so that's our second issue, because this should really move it. It should move it over 2, but if I run this test, it probably won't do that. Okay. Or it will, and we can be confused. It's actually hard to say because this SVG, it doesn't really tell you when something isn't centered at 0, 0. So what I might do, this is going to kind of ruin the test a little bit, but I'll do a chip R1, or I'll do a resistor. Actually, let's try this. Let's get a little hacky. We'll do U1. And we'll just put that guy at the 0 coordinate so that we know where it is. I'll have to remove this though because it's going to get too confusing. Oh, we got a bug somehow. Set position from layout not implemented for port. So it's having trouble moving some of the ports around. Set position from layout is is a function that adjusts the layout. So we have yet another bug. So we're just going down the bug trail. Okay, so we're 3 bugs deep. This one is the easiest to implement. I love to give errors that make it so that it's kind of easy to know what to do next. So we just need to implement this function, set position from layout. I don't think this returns. Yeah, this doesn't return anything. And then all we do is we do db from this.root, then we do db update, or schematic port update, center is new center. The AI messed up the syntax. Okay, so that should fix that. Let's see. Okay, so let's see what happens. Well, this is confusing. I wonder if I can get a smaller, I think a tscircuit, which is what I used, a small outline in integrated circuit. That's actually a fairly big package. So let's do tsop8, which I believe should be smaller. We'll rerun, or they're the same, or the preview didn't change. I think not trusting my previews is the biggest trust issue I have right now. Yeah, the preview is wrong. We're still getting weird stuff. Wow, this looks so weird. Okay. I think I know why though. I think these constraints, let's simplify. We're gonna do an 0402. The AI always wants to use the ohm symbol, and I don't know if it's supported, so I'm like being like super cautious because I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, okay. So I think the issue is on the resistor, this is labeled pin 1 and pin 2, and I think it's messing up the constraint system. So the constraint system is using stuff it shouldn't be. It's basically what it comes down to. So let's see if we can fix that. And what it comes down to is there's a function called get all reference components. Yeah. And this is inside of a constraint, and you just return all the components that you're referencing. And yeah, this is really the root of the issue. It selects from the subcircuit. It shouldn't select from a subcircuit. It should select from, it's called a primitive container. And that way, and the primitive container is like a chip or resistor, like anything that has like multiple ports in it, basically. Okay, so we'll say that. Okay, let's see if this might fix everything. We'll see. Whoops. Example 2 SVG. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we can have 2 footprints coexisting. So I believe this solves one of the issues we had. I believe we can now have 2 switches, but the switches is still not offsetting itself. So we need to figure out why it's not offsetting itself. I wonder if I can have this. No, I can't. I'm trying to think of a place to move this where I can always have it on screen. You know, honestly, I think we know what we're looking at. Let's just make it really small and I'll just deal with it. Okay, so it's not offsetting by 2. You can tell because it's perfectly centered. So let's figure out why it's not doing that. I have a theory that it has to do with this centering step. So at the end of the process, it computes a global offset. After it moves all the components, it computes a global offset, and then it moves things according to that global offset. So I have some feelings that that is causing the problem. Because basically what it's doing, I think, is centering it. So instead of centering it completely, what we can do, we could get the primitive container, and then we could get the global PCB position before layout, I think. Yeah, container position, and then we can add that to the global offset. I think I can do that because we should always have a container there. Didn't seem to work. Let's log the container position and the global offset. I feel like this SVG isn't updating. Can never trust these SVGs. Yeah, the SVG wasn't updating. Oh my gosh. I need an SVG tool that reliably updates. Sometimes this does auto update. I think it depends like whether this tab is opened or something. It's just insane to me. Like just reliably auto update. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the next version of this is, let's say we want two of these stacked on top of each other. So one is S1, one is S2, and we'll put this one at -4 or something like that. So these should now, yeah, now they stack on top of each other. So this is what we'll use to create multiple keys. And I just found another bug. You can see the boundary detection isn't quite right here. So let's go ahead and create an issue for that. Boundary detection, not correct. Not correct. With example file. I like to also give the JSON soup to reproduce this. So we're just going to do that to write it out. I can do cursor test.json. It'll open it up and then I can paste that into the issue. Okay. I don't know if it's encouraging people when I say it's an easy one. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I created that issue on circuit.svg and I posted the source code. That's like the best thing you could ask for because you can just throw all that into a test and then you can just keep debugging it until it works. But I think we fixed all the issues we set out to fix inside of core. It was pretty quick, wasn't too hard. We implemented this. Let's get the commit hash. So I'm going to commit. I can actually put in all the issue numbers. Fixes 40, number 40, fixes. And what that'll do is automatically close it. This one is also fixed. Fixes 39, fixes. These were all separate bugs. Like these could have all been fixed differently. I just did them all at once. And yeah, fixes 38. Various fixes for constraint and for constraint. Is that the only thing we fixed? And port location after layout and layout calculation. Okay, now we check to see that that passes. And you can see because I referenced the issues, if I actually go to the issues, it will link to the commit and then these issues will auto close. So that's a really good tip if you're just kind of working like I am, closing issues all the time. We've switched back to the CLI here, and what I can do is update latest tscircuit core, and that should give me the latest version from the repo. I can check that just by looking at the latest commit. It says 036, and we update, and we get 036. Okay, so now when we run bunrun dev, in theory, our switch shaft should render properly. We're going to speed up this rendering time pretty soon too, because you probably noticed it compiles like every example, not just the one that changed. There we go. All right, so we have two switch shafts. So yeah, let's keep moving on this. So we want 9 of these. So what I'm going to do is do a loop of 9 elements. Oops. Length 9, map I, and we need to calculate the X and Y. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just have a mapping phase before this that kind of takes care of computing this X and Y part. So I'll say key num I plus 1, x I modulo 3, y math floor I divided by 3. Perfect. And then over here, we can do key num xy. For the name, we'll do SW key num, so 1 through 9. And then we'll do x, we'll do y. And I might just change this a little bit. Maybe even have 2 mapping phases. So we can say column and row. And then I'm going to do another map here. This is kind of, yeah, exactly. We want to add like a width. I think 3.1 is pretty good. I don't know where it got that from, but 3.1 is around what I was thinking. Okay, this looks pretty weird for a lot of reasons. Zero, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Both those seem pretty good to me. Let's increase it a little bit. Let's increase our board size too. Just give us a little bit more room to work with. You know, I think these are actually, now that I think about it, I think these are quite big. I think they're about 15 millimeters. Yeah, they're really big. Okay. So now we're looking a little bit more normal. What is the key separation for a typical 9-key keypad? How many millimeters apart are the keys? For a mechanical keyboard, 9-key macro keypad. 19 or 19.05. So 20 is actually pretty close, 19.05. It looked right. Okay. So there's something a little bit weird in the display I'm noticing, like a possible bug here. Also, I don't love that these aren't centered around 0. So maybe we will center these around 0. So to do that, I can just subtract, I think it's like 1905 times 3 divided by 2. That should be the half. That should center it, I think. Let's see. Oh, it takes so long. Nope, I was wrong. It's not going to be times 2 divided by 2 because that would. So it's got to be this, I think. Am I crazy? I don't think it updated. There's a syntax error. Yeah, one problem is, let's file it, but one problem is the errors don't come up. Build errors, not, let's say syntax errors in example don't show up in browser. Yeah, you gotta trust your preview. As with the, same with the SVG thing. Like you wanna be able to trust your preview. Okay, looks about right. So one thing that's a little bit suspicious is these pins don't list their parent, and I don't know why. The parent has a name, it's a chip, and it's getting the name prop from the prop. So it's a little weird to me. It doesn't list it, but I think I know why. I think it has to do with the fact that these are inside of a footprint component. So like, basically if I give this a name, it'll probably start showing up here. Oh, maybe not. The other thing with footprints is they're not supposed to have a name, so that could be why that doesn't happen. But yeah, that's definitely a little bit problematic. I think you can. I don't think it'll functionally change our code, but it is supposed to be that way. It's like a quality of life thing. This issue is a bit annoying to file. Oh, you know what? It's in the PCB viewer that actually. It's in the PCB viewer. I think it's the PCB viewer that has this issue. The only way to really know is to look at this table, which represents the JSON, the circuit JSON. And we can clearly see the selector paths are working here. So yeah, it's an issue with the PCB viewer. These selector paths are totally working. So yeah, okay. Well, that's good. Or bad. I don't know. At the same time, these PCB ports don't seem to have a name attached to them, and that's a little suspicious. Source port 0. Yeah, I'm not sure. So let's just keep messing around with it, and maybe we'll find out if it's working or not working. The other thing is, I think I was using plated holes here, and these are actually supposed to be holes. There was just like not great support for plated holes at the time. And these are defined a little bit differently. Diameter, okay. So that should not change anything, hopefully. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, cool. Looking at that guy's Discord design, I saw he had some other holes, which kind of worries me. I'm wondering if I am missing some other holes that I'm supposed to have. So I'll worry about that a bit more in a minute. I might have to look at some KiCad designs, figure out what's going on there. But for now, let's see if we can add some traces. So first of all, I'm going to put these inside of ooh, that's a great idea. It is prompting me to add some text. I guess that can go inside the switch shaft. Yeah, we can add it as part of the footprint as silkscreen text, like that. Let's see how that looks, and then we'll adjust as needed. Oh, we've got another bug. I'm not sure this is implemented. Unsupported component type, silkscreen text. It's another core error. It's because all this is being, you know, written again from the ground up, so we're missing some things. Silkscreen text. All right, it's an easy one to implement. Might be able to get this implemented by AI, so we'll definitely try that. Yeah, okay. That's really a nice to have, so I'm not 100% sure we need to stop everything to implement that right now. So I posted on Discord a YouTube video of a guy designing a mechanical keyboard.
Today we're going to be taking a look at designing mechanical.
Very loud.
Options, a DO35 and an SOD123. We're going to just apply the DO35, and basically DO35s are the typical through-hole diode you'll see, whereas SOD123, come up then 19.05, and now you can see that all these switches are moving on that 19.05.
So the reason his switches look different is he's directly soldering the switches, but for me, you're just going to put them, you can remove them. So if you're developing keyboards, you probably don't want to solder in your switches. Soldering and desoldering switches is really annoying and a lot more effort.
Now this will be coming, move, good. And you can see now that point is moving in relation to that origin point that we just set. So what you want to do now is just align all your correct grid of wire. Click this to jump back to the PCB. Of course, it doesn't really force with the positions in it. We put the video, or if you don't. So
he's on the PCB layout phase, which might seem relevant, but I actually care more about the schematic. So let's jump to the schematic. Okay, so he's got these diodes, and he's using axial diodes, but we can use SMD diodes. And he's got them arranged kind of like this. It would be awesome to lay out our schematic and show it just like this, but I don't know if we'll be able to do that just because the schematic viewer is in pretty bad shape with tscircuit core at the moment because we're trying to integrate a new symbol library. So I'm a little worried about that, but otherwise looks pretty good. Let's include in our switch shaft a diode, and hopefully that all works. We might run into more bugs, but let's see. We might hit all the bugs we can hit and then move on. So I'm gonna create one thing we could do. The switch shaft is really like its own thing. So why don't we create a new higher order component? We'll call it, let's see. So we have the shaft, and then I don't know, key. I'll just call it a key. Yeah, it's basically the full circuit for a key. The switch shaft is just a component of that circuit. That's all good. We are going to use, we could use a group, but I'm a little afraid to use a group right now because I haven't tested that too much. So I'm going to try to use a fragment. So we'll import our switch shaft. I don't know what it's complaining about. Type expected. I made this a TS instead of a TSX file. So we'll make that a TSX file. Uh-oh. Am I using the right mic? Yeah, I'm using the right mic. I'm like, how is this picking up my keyboard? My keyboard's so quiet. Okay. So let's refactor this to use our main file to use key. And then instead of switch, we'll just call it K. Or actually we can pass in, yeah, we'll call it K. We'll pass in key num. And then for our switch shaft, we can do SW key num, kind of keep that convention going. And that should compile. So let's just make sure that that is all good. Looks okay. Okay, seems okay. So now we can add traces and stuff to our, we can add a diode, for example. Hopefully diodes render. Name, yeah, D diode number. We can put it at the same XY for now. I think it worked. Our diodes don't have a footprint. It's an easy thing to run into. Oh, what did it just suggest? SOD123. I know we don't support that, but I can add that to the footprinter repo as an issue because it sounds like something we should support. Add support for, what was it? SOD123. Okay. Let's just do like 0603 or something for now because I don't know. It's just a placeholder footprint. Not seeing anything. Let's check our soup here and look for a diode. I feel like it didn't compile properly. This is the worst. You know what I mean? You really want this stuff to reliably compile. We could comment out the switch shaft and see if we can just lay down the diodes. So that's a good way to do it. We can also just check core and see if this is just like a bug with how, yeah, so diodes literally don't have a render phase. Diodes don't render. Although I'm kind of surprised because I think resistors also create traces from props. Prop stuff, that's a different thing. Do initial source render. I don't think you have to implement these things for diode. Let's do a quick investigation and just see that diodes render. So I'm gonna load up Aider. I'm gonna add library and tests. And then the other thing that's really been bothering, actually before we do this, something that's been bothering me is we want to ignore SVGs when we add files to Aider. So I'm going to introduce, I believe it's called an Aider ignore, just to ignore SVGs because I'm paying a lot of money and reducing the quality of the AI by adding SVGs, which are essentially useless. So options reference, and we want to ignore Aider ignore. I'm just checking to see if it's an Aider ignore file. Yeah, Aider ignore, okay. So we will create that file. And we'll say any SVG. We could be more specific and say any snapshot, any snap file. Okay, hopefully that works. We're gonna add lib, we're gonna add tests. This is where the SVGs would normally come in and they didn't, which is great. So now let's say we just wanna add a test for diode. So add a SVG snapshot test for a diode. So that will confirm whether or not diodes correctly render. In the meantime, we did refresh that server. So yeah, we can remove the switch shaft here and see if that does anything. It could be an issue where it's just like something with, oh no, this is definitely, something's definitely wrong. So this is the entry point being logged. So let's run that entry point and see what's going on. Entry points are basically, look at that. What's going on? It had an issue writing to the file. No such file or directory. That seems like a user error. Oh, it says unsupported component type not registered in tscircuit core catalog diode. And then the no such file or directory seems unrelated. So one thing that's annoying, yeah, huh. What, maybe it is related. Let's see if we can just make this code a little bit more robust by making it tolerant, like by resolving the path fully instead of having a relative path, because relative paths are never fun. So I think this is in Supify core where we generate the entry point. And then there's this line like temporary output path Let's make all of these absolute. Looks like I can just change path.join to path.resolve. Okay. So instead of running bun run dev over and over again, I wonder if I can do it without rebuilding. I'm just going to create an alias. I'm going to call it dev fast, and it's just going to do the running of the front end in the test project, because I don't like waiting on that build time, and it's supposed to be instant. Like this is that, now it runs instantly. That's pretty annoying. Okay, so now our entry point file, that file exists though. During add, write file sync. Oh, wait a second. What is this? Oh my gosh. Supposed to be part of this? Oof. Oof. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's a big bug. Silencing our errors. Okay, so now it's logging. It should also show up in the browser. Okay, it's saying everything needs a unique key prop. I think it doesn't like inside the fragment if everything doesn't have a unique key prop. So key equals D1, key equals diode. It's also complaining, yeah. Okay, so now we can see that our diodes aren't rendering. There's also this annoying issue with the prop here, so we'll have to fix this as well. Those key errors aren't really relevant for us most of the time at the moment. They will be a little bit relevant later, but keys are actually gonna get removed from React pretty soon. So this unsupported component type thing, since diode is defined, this is like just, it's not being exported properly from lib components. So very trivial fix, you just do export diode. Oh, and it wants to create our diode snapshot test, which will allow us to test what we just did. Yeah, we can run that shell command. Cannot duplicate an export. No, okay. We're gonna turn the AI off. Oh, it also did this fix. Okay, cool. So we now have a diode snapshot test. Yeah, we don't need any of this. The SOT thing, unfortunately, doesn't work. Also, why is it calling it SOD? SOD 123. SOT 123. Are those the same? Small SOD. I think it's. Oh wait. Let's call it. Yeah, small outline diode. I guess there's probably also small outline transistor. Yeah, it's a great footprint to implement. Maybe we'll do it. I'll throw that one to the sharks. We're just gonna use 0603 for now. And then we're not gonna do schematic snapshot matching for now. Okay, let's open that up. So now it's rendering. Wasn't before. We fixed it when we added it as an export to lib components, and the AI realized this and also added it. So not a very satisfying fix, but that is the fix for, let's see, what's the issue number? Diodes don't render 43. By the way, I hate issue titles that say like fixes and then the issue number. The PR title should be meaningful because they go into the merge messages and stuff. It is annoying to duplicate it though. So, and I know the AI does it right now, which is really annoying as well, but yeah, we shouldn't do it. It's a good Bunator issue. That's the AI that's committing for us. So PR title should issue title rather than including the issue number. Allow automatically add TypeScript files to contact unless they're inside .8 ignore. Bunator actually runs on this repo, so we can try to just do this. Oh, yeah. It'll work with either Aider or Bunator. I think this repo is configured just to work with Aider though. So I should fix that. Okay. It's a really tiny fix. Just some stuff to do in the background while we're waiting for PRs. Okay, we fixed it. We can take a quick peek at our snapshot. Yay. Okay, now we can update tscircuit core to latest. And it should fix our issue. And we should see some diodes. Yay, we have diodes. I'm gonna adjust the rotation on these diodes. So PCB rotation equals 90. Hopefully this doesn't break things. Yay. Okay. Now we're gonna add in the switch shafts. Yay. Okay. So far, so good. Now, I'm anticipating things to start breaking. Now, we want to offset the diodes, I think. Probably like, I actually don't know on these keyboards if it's allowed to be on top. Maybe it is. Probably the easiest way to figure that out is to look at QMK and look at some of these boards people have made and what they do. Yeah, so they've got their diodes on top on this board. Yeah, he's got the diode right, he or she has the diode right below the switch. So I will copy that. I will do that exact same thing. So we want it like approximately right here. If we look at that distance, it's, I should probably start this way. It's, okay, I lied. That was harder to read. I don't know why it calculates like that, but it looks like it's 4 down and 7 over. So 4 down, it's -4, and 7 over, it's +7. It says PCBX is possibly undefined, so let's force this to be defined. Okay, so not bad, but a little bit close for comfort. Let's reduce it a little bit more. Okay, seems fine. Now let's connect these two traces together. So see how this guy has like D8 right on it? I think that's a PCB viewer bug and not like a bigger thing than that, but I am worried about it. So we'll see if that works. Yeah, okay. So now we add a trace. We're gonna add a key because for some reason it's requiring a key. And then we're gonna say from. Yeah, okay, let's clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna make all the names of things variables. So shaft equals shaft name. And then we'll have a diode name. Okay. And then we're gonna say from, yeah, shaft name. We have to do a space, which is a little annoying, but it's CSS syntax, so. Pin 1, it's saying key isn't allowed. Let's try not doing a key and see if it breaks anything. Oh, everything's broken. So if we put these in a group, we'll try putting these in a group in a second, but if you put them in a group, it does not require a key, so that could be nice. The switch shaft also doesn't have a key. Cannot find port, oh, that was a warning. Cannot find port for SW pin 1, SW pin 1, SW1 pin 1. Yeah, so this is what I was thinking was possibly an issue. I wonder if I do this, if I say go into the footprint, if that'll fix it. Yeah, no, it's not finding it. Yeah. Oh, actually, this should be dot. It's just CSS selector syntax. Cannot find a common layer using hints for this trace. Cannot find a common layer. Could not find a common layer. I didn't specify the layers for these. I just assumed they would get a default layer, but let's just specify the layer explicitly and then we can file that. Oh yeah, it's a bug with that. And then you can see the PCB port is most likely what's here, which is an abstract element, is not in the right location. And also it looks kind of like, for whatever reason, when you rotate, port 2 is on top, which isn't how I would expect. I would expect things to rotate clockwise. So yeah, a couple things going on. I wonder why the rotation is wrong. I wonder if I need to negate that because of the Cartesian axis switch, or if that's actually the mathematically correct way to do it is counterclockwise. I think it might be the mathematically correct way to go counterclockwise. Okay, cool though, getting somewhere. So I have a hunch on this where, yeah, I have some hunches, but this one is pretty easy to debug, I think, because like I said, I think it's the PCB port that's messed up. So the PCB port is like, represents like what, you know, it basically hovers over elements and represents what you can connect to. This is -19.9. Not sure, but I will solve this in the next video because this has been recording for an hour. Cheers.